Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special episode of the Ridiculously Lame Wrestling Show. My name is Tony Squares. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Robert Lentini. We're breaking down the world of wrestling as we do every week in both WWE and AEW. But this week, there's not a lot of shit going on, Bob, so we have a very special episode to dive into. We will be talking about Roman Reigns and the thing they put around his neck, whatever Bob wants to call it. We will be talking about Rhea Ripley and Joe Hendry in NXT, but the focus of this show mainly is going to be the state of AEW and where we are heading into the biggest show of their season in Wembley in just a few days here. I believe it's 10 days away at the time of we're recording this.
Yeah.
So for AEW, Bob, instead of saying how disappointed we are in some things in AEW, how you still wish CM Punk was there and they would have built on the feud that they had built in there, instead I wanted to play a little game with you because AEW is about 5 years old now, going on 6 years old. And way back when we saw the YouTube videos and oh my goodness, they're starting another promotion, this rebel aura about them, the answer to WWE, all the carnival stupid shit that Vince McMahon is pulling is gone. We're going to have real wrestling back again, Bob. It's going to be a joyous, joyous time.
Yeah.
And when you close your eyes now, 5 to 6 years later, and you think of the name AEW, what wrestler, wrestlers, promotion, voice, what person pops into your head? Who embodies AEW the most? Whether they're still there, whether they're on this all-in card, whether they're not there at all, whether they haven't been used in years. Who embodies AEW the most to you and to me? We're going to draft a few names here, go back and forth. It's not really building our best AEW roster, I would say, but it's more who is AEW? Who bleeds AEW? Is it guys that used to be in WWE? Is it homegrown products themselves? Is it people that, again, just are sitting at home with their feet up like Ricky Starks? I don't know who's going to make this list, but who to you embodies AEW and where are we now in Tony Khan's promotion just 5 to 6 years later, hinging on a new television deal, hinging on all these new opportunities coming out, HBO Max, all these stupid things that we've heard rumored, and yet we're still in the place we are right now. Bob, do you understand the adventure we're about to go on here?
I think so. I'm ready to read off a name, but we can talk about this. If we're doing a quick, brief state of AEW here, we're talking about they're going into their WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
This is their biggest show of the year. And we host a wrestling podcast, and we email each other all the time trying to think of topics. We're having a hell of a time with AEW right now, and they're heading into their biggest show of the year. So that's why we're doing this. That's the undercurrent here. We're trying to find things to make AEW exciting. Well, it shouldn't be work for us. We should just be reacting to things that they give us, and we're not really getting that. We're not getting the AEW tag titles defended for months until last night. Okada is finally going to be defending his Continental Championship. We'll talk about all that, but yeah, just that's why we're doing this draft, because AEW's heading into their biggest show of the year, and we got shit to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know how long this draft is going to go. I got about 20 to 22 names that I've written down that I think embody AEW, and Okada did not make the list. And I love Okada. Listen, it's again, I'm not building my promotion here. I'm not building my dream card here. Okada's awesome, but his run in AEW has done nothing to me to resemble what AEW is. Like, he's done literally nothing in that company, and he's been there for quite some time now. Mercedes Moné, also not on my list. What has she done for this company so far? Again, a little bit early in that stretch. So, Bob, I'm going to give you first pick because I got a feeling I got a stronghold on some of the people that I believe embody AEW. But out of all the entities out there, what is the first name that pops into your head when you think AEW?
Yeah, how I decided on this pick was literally, you said close your eyes, first name that comes to your head that embodies AEW. To me, it's Darby Allin. That's a lot. He is AEW to me for all that's good and all that's bad. We could die every match, or he could put on an excellent match every match. That's AEW to me. Someone might die, or it might be 5 stars. That sums up everything. So Darby Allin to me is Mr. AEW, homegrown. I don't ever want to see Darby Allin in WWE. I always want Darby Allin to be in AEW, suspending from wires, jumping off stage, doing all his goofy shit, because that's him. That's who he is, and that's AEW. They're the rebels, and he's the face of AEW. One of the 4 pillars, the main pillar, I would say, Darby Allin. It was my first pick.
I hear you on that. That's a surprising first pick. He's definitely on my list, not near the top of the list, but I fully buy what you're saying. He does embody AEW, and
Yeah.
at no point do you ever see him in WWE.
No.
It wouldn't make sense. I get that. Hey man, I think that's a great pick by you. Also, let's talk about Darby right now. We're talking about building to All In. If he's your first pick for AEW, if he embodies AEW the most, what do you think about the state of him right now heading into this WrestleMania for AEW?
Oh, what's he doing? A coffin match against Jack Perry is what that is that what that is?
It's
That
it's at least it's not a set on fire match.
yeah, it's good. It's good. Jack Perry is also on my list. I didn't name him yet. To be sure
He's
he's
on
on
my
your
short
list.
list too. Yeah.
Yeah, he deserves to be on the list. So they're the two of the four pillars. As much as I disdain what happened with Jack Perry and CM Punk, I don't hate Jack Perry as a person, and I think he would be a great pick when you pick him or I pick him later in this draft. What's
Well,
your
my
pick?
next pick when it comes to embodying AEW, and I thought for sure you were going to go with this guy as your first overall pick because this to me is what made me excited to watch AEW in the first place, and that's Kenny Omega. We heard rumor about Kenny Omega and New Japan. We saw some of the Wrestle Kingdom matches that he put on, some of this awesome stuff. And I mean, unless you were knee deep in New Japan stuff, you just kind of saw him as a big bout guy and put on amazing shows, but you didn't know the greatness that he was week in and week out until he came to AEW. And when he is healthy and when he is in the ring, it doesn't matter who he's fighting, Bob. He could be, and he's done it before. He's fought inanimate objects and made
Yeah,
it spectacular wrestling. He is exactly what AEW should be. He's not the world's best talker. He's not the world's most coherent person, but in the ring, and when AEW matters is what happens in the ring, there is no one on this earth better than Kenny Omega. And to me, if I'm thinking about AEW, the first person that pops into my head is that weird man Kenny, because he is an awkward fellow, but he is
yeah,
awesome
it's very
as a
strange.
wrestler. Kenny Omega is definitely my first pick. I say we're starting off very hot with this AEW. Who is AEW draft? Darby Allin has sort of the spirit, and Kenny
Yeah.
Omega is sort of the alpha. So who's your second pick?
Well, I'm going because she's one of my favorite characters, and she's former AEW
A
Women's
she.
Champion. Yeah, I'm taking Toni Storm second,
Oh,
and I'm building around her because I think she's the face of that division. And you don't let her go back to WWE. Whatever you can do, and her character, her timeless Toni Storm character, should forever be an AEW creation. I don't want to see a knockoff in WWE in 2 years. Keep Toni Storm in AEW. Have her be the face of the women's division. She left WWE because they had her Charlotte throw a pie in her face. They didn't know how to use Toni Storm when they had her, so keep her in AEW. She's excelling there. That's my second pick. I just think,
Bob.
honestly, I think she has like the best, like biggest name value out of most with them. Go ahead, but yeah, that's
No,
what.
I love Tony Storm and
Yeah,
Timeless Tony Storm, and I'm sad to say I had 3 girls on my list of 20 here. Tony Storm was not one of them.
wow. Oh,
And I
I feel
truly
good.
enjoy Tony Storm.
I
I
feel good about
truly
my
enjoy
pick.
Tony Storm. This is
Yeah,
nothing against her. I love the Timeless Tony Storm gimmick. For some reason, that didn't pop into my head when I was thinking about AEW. Maybe it would have if I thought about it longer. But there were other women that got there
yeah,
first. But I'm
makes
not
sense.
I'm not holding this pick against you. I'm just saying I'm surprised that that's the first name that's come up that I did not have on my list, and I figured
Yeah,
I'd have all of the people Bob had. Bob, second name I got to go to you. And this is a tie between the two of them, but I'm going with this one just because of the controversy around it. It's Cody Rhodes. When
oh
I
wow.
think AEW, I think about Cody Rhodes. And
Still,
Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega together started this thing with another group of people that have yet to be named. And for the 3 solid years, carried the mid card of this promotion on his back purposefully. Like
yeah,
he purposefully said very early on, I'm not fighting for the main belt. Why? Because they could separate all the big guns on the card and make every single hour of television matter. And Cody Rhodes took that mid card and made that thing fucking fly. Cody
yeah,
Rhodes told amazing stories in an AEW wrestling ring, and he made guys like MJF, like Sammy Guevara. He made no names to the wrestling community because he was Cody Rhodes, and he came in and he was the persona that we all knew from WWE. Here's Cody, here's Stardust. And he was a different person, propelled him to the absolute top of the wrestling game so he could go to WWE and take over that promotion, be the number one babyface in the world. That started in AEW, and when I close my eyes, I think about Cody Rhodes, and that stinks that they ever let him go. It was the biggest loss that they ever had. You can throw CM Punk ticket sales in my face. I get that. Cody Rhodes leaving was the biggest loss AEW ever had, and they've never recovered since. Cody's number 2 for me. Bob, who's your number 3?
I like your pick for number 2 a lot. Number 3, I'm going to go. He hasn't been picked, which is shocking, is MJF. I'm taking MJF off the board. They have to get MJF. Cody Rhodes' arch nemesis back in the day.
Yeah.
Pretty much the reason he lost that title, I think, is MJF threw in the towel against Chris Jericho. So you got to take MJF, the American champion. I can't believe there's a name that I don't have on my list that just popped in that I'm writing down now. That if you don't take him, I'm taking him next. So who's your next pick?
Well, no. Like, let's stay on MJF for a second, because
Yeah.
MJF is not being built to be in the big main event title shot in All In, and that's okay, because he's having an amazing match
Yeah.
in this amazing real American gimmick that he's putting on versus Will Ospreay. MJF, injured for a while, was the biggest star in the company when he got injured. Now is coming back, sort of building his way back up to the injury here. And again, out of all these names, we didn't talk about Tony Storm building with Mariah May, but I do have to say I really like the way that's being built too. So far, we haven't really gotten to a name that we're not enjoying the build of to All In, right?
No. Everything's been pretty solid so far. MJF versus Will Ospreay. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you at that point.
So then I got to ask, what is going on with why are we not more excited to talk about this week in and week out? It has to be what's going on in the weekly television of Dynamite. We know that pay-per-view is going to be amazing, but I guess we've just already built to it, and we're just waiting for it to arrive. The third pick I'm going to take. Bob, you've given me the 3 fucking world of EVPs, Omega, Cody, and the Young Bucks. When I close my eyes, I think of the Young Bucks in AEW. Again, they might not be your favorite, but they are AEW. They're the reason why this brand is here. And I've not enjoyed their world versus the Acclaimed. I've not enjoyed their world versus how they haven't really fought FTR. When they have, it's kind of like a no one is allowed to be on top in that feud ever in AEW. But the Young Bucks overall have put on some of the most memorable matches in AEW, and they're the reason this whole entire thing got moving. I love them. I do love them, and I'd be so angry if they weren't around anymore. So the Young Bucks, I think I'm getting value here with the Young Bucks in the third round.
Yeah, I mean, well, what do they wrestle twice a year now? So not that much value, but yeah, I'm not. The Young Bucks are on my list, but I'm glad you picked them. They do embody AEW, but it's too much damage there for me to pick them. So, oh god. Now
who's your fourth pick?
Fourth pick. See, I'm not going to pick CM Punk. Because if we're doing like a draft of like what I would want AEW to be, I would. But I'm picking like Christian Cage.
AEW? Yeah.
Christian Cage pops out because I think his run in AEW has been legendary.
I think it's been special too. He's on my short list.
But I'm gonna.
Not my next pick though.
I can't let. Well, there's 2 people that I can't believe haven't been picked. But I'm gonna pick Will Ospreay now.
Okay.
So I'm skipping.
He was down on my list because Ospreay's awesome, but he's only been there for a cup of coffee. But I mean, you're right.
Well, I think he's gonna. I view him as AEW's biggest star. Like almost besides MJF, I think he's their biggest star at the moment. I could be wrong, maybe Danielson, but obviously, but I just feel like Ospreay's their future, and I just want him on whatever we're drafting. I want him on my team. I'm not letting him go to you next pick, so I just got him out of the way. And I feel like you're gonna take the guy I want to take next right now. I feel like you have someone.
Is that guy Hangman Adam Page?
Absolutely
because that's
not.
The next pick. Absolutely not, Bob.
No.
Bob, this man from the beginning won the Casino Battle Royale, got to fight Chris Jericho for the first ever championship belt that he lost to Chris Jericho. He was the babyface from the first few years. He was the main guy that they put in front of everybody and said, this is the guy you're going to root for coming up from the muck. The Dark Order stupid shit that they had going on. His stuff with the drinking beer on the sidelines, and then he starts to go crazy and starts to break bad. His stuff with Kenny Omega and the tag championship, fighting against the Elite.
That was great.
Hangman has been involved in so many major storylines in AEW, and that entrance music still slaps, my friend. Yeah. Hangman is the number one, in my opinion, the number one babyface in the whole entire company if we're going off the 5-6 year run. Hangman is it. And I'm surprised he lasted this long. I'm very happy I got pretty much the entire Elite roster here. All the
Yeah,
YouTube butt buddies are on my team together.
yeah.
But Hangman, when you were thinking about AEW, Hangman's on top.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, Hangman Page is a star. I wouldn't call him a big star, but he's for AEW. He
But
is,
he
yeah,
is AEW. That's the
yeah.
thing. Like he is, if he was in WWE, he wouldn't get past Ethan Page at NXT, but he is AEW.
So now we're getting into names where we'd pick, like, it would make more sense to pick like Wardlow because he's been in AEW for longer than this guy. But I don't believe in Wardlow anymore, so I'm not picking him. So like, you could have him.
Wardlow wasn't on my list, sadly.
Yeah,
Wardlow was not on my short list here.
I thought Wardlow was going to be one of the biggest stars in wrestling when I first saw him. I'm like,
agree.
yes,
I agree.
Yeah, but I'm going with Swerve. I'm taking Swerve now. I'm taking newer stars now because I want to move on from a lot of the stuff that AEW. I'm not taking, like, AR Fox or anybody like that. I want. I like Swerve's the current AEW champion. He could be retiring Bryan Danielson in 10 days. He's clearly, they're building around him. I can't. Yeah. I said the one thing, like, we're talking about the build. This Bryan Danielson Swerve build, I guess we're saying we've liked all the build. We just haven't had enough to talk about because the Swerve and Danielson build's been all right. But yeah, I'm going with Swerve here, taking him off the board. He's AEW champion, might as well.
Maybe it's because the builds have been there was 1 week where like all these things happened. Mariah May turns on Tony Storm. We see Daniel Bryan win the Owen Hart Classic. Like all these things happened at once, and then we kind of knew what the card was, and we've kind of just been moving towards the card. Like no real surprises in the build since then. So maybe that's what we're kind of torn with. But
I don't have anything to say about Hangman Page versus Jay Lethal. That's what the problem is. Like, that's was
I couldn't even tell you that was going to be the match on
that match happened. No, that match happened last night for 10 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, he's obviously treading water until until we get to Swerve past Daniel Bryan.
Yeah,
my 5th round pick. Again, we're talking about it. You're taking all the new stars, which is right. I keep on going with the old stars, man, the OGs, because who was the biggest switcheroo in AEW right from the get-go? Yeah, we knew Cody and the Elite were going to be there. We knew Hangman Adam Page were going to be there. We heard about these guys. Maybe MJF on the indie circuits were going to appear in AEW, but who was the biggest name to switch? It was Dean Ambrose.
Oh,
it was John Moxley.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Oh, he wasn't on my list. That's a disaster. I didn't even
because Bob, to share something with you that I have not shared in this podcast. You do know I was at the Las Vegas Money in the Bank event where Dean Ambrose won Money in the Bank and cashed in the same night. I was there. I have never enjoyed Dean Ambrose in WWE. Not once, not never. Not once, not never. I thought he was a cartoon. I thought he was terrible. I even remember telling my friends, if you gave me 6 months of training, I could be Dean Ambrose, because that's how unimpressed I was with his work in WWE. That through the ropes, coming back for a clothesline thing, it was all a gimmick. And then John Moxley happened, and it completely changed everything I thought about the man. I think John Moxley is a tremendous, tremendous wrestler, and he is, when there is a John Moxley match on the card, it is so different than any other match on the card, and you truly do not know what's going to happen. He brings a vibe that is completely original and unique. Moxley is AEW, and I'm so happy I have him as my 5th pick. Bob, we're going more. What's your 6th?
All right. I mean, well, she just got suspended, but she is the former AEW champion. I'm taking another female to face Tony Storm. I'm going with Britt Baker, controversies and all. Pick. Okay. Well, yeah, and then a lot of my other picks, I can't believe. Here's what's sad. I know John Moxley's taking a break right now. Yeah. He doesn't, like, they got to build him up again when he comes back. Like, he was at one point like the biggest star in the industry for a split second. Yep. And then, like, it's not the case anymore. And I don't know why he's taking I don't know why he's going to be missing All In or whatever's going on right now. That sucks.
That might be an injury. I'm not sure either. Yeah. He's also had like off the field troubles in his own life, and he's done the right things to get through all that. So maybe he just wants to be a father right now. They do have a raising family, although his wife is at every Dynamite. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure myself. Britt Baker's a great pick, though. Britt Baker's a great pick, and was my next pick. But I'll go to the pick right below her. No longer in this company. but still resembles AEW wholeheartedly to me. And Bob, I'm going to do my best impression, but it's Sting! Sting is awesome.
Oh, I thought
Sting
I
is
thought you were
awesome.
gonna. I thought you were
Oh, it
taking
ain't Tony
Tony.
Schiavone.
I thought you were taking
It
Tony
ain't
Schiavone.
Tony
I was like,
Schiavone.
wait a minute, what the fuck?
It's Tony Schiavone doing a Sting, an
Yeah,
introing Sting.
it's a hell of a pick to take Schiavone here. There's a lot of big names left on the board. All right.
We're not taking Schiavone. No, Sting is the pick. Because Sting is, it was his final run. It was the retirement tour. He only wrestled a few times. He had also one of the coolest matches where they had it was him and Darby versus Brian Cage and I think Hobbs. And there was that, in the warehouse, and it was kind of like a cinematic match. I thought that was one of the coolest things AEW's ever done. Sting was awesome in his final run here. He mattered in every single match he was in, and then all the way to the end. And I also don't think he took a pin in AEW, which is fine by me. Sting was fantastic, and it was a special moment to see Sting finish that way. He ended the thing correctly. Sting is my pick for 6 overall. Let's go to 7, Bob. Who you got?
I didn't take him. Oh, shoot. Oh, damn. Now I'm torn.
Now he's torn.
Yeah. Oh, God. I'm going with FTR. They haven't been taken, have they? FTR.
They have not, and they did not make my list, Bob. They did not make my short list. I have another 10 names before I get to FTR.
Well, I'm taking them. I'm taking FTR because they're the best tag team in the world. It's not It's not their fault they don't get booked well.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they don't exactly. I would take Cesaro too, but have we seen Cesaro in AEW at all?
All right.
No.
I was torn between FTR and Christian Cage. Christian Cage, to me, his run is. I mean, he's going to be remembered most likely more for WWE. Obviously, he was there for decades, but his run in AEW has been excellent. But just write FTR for me. It makes sense. How many more names do you have on your? Have you given your 7th yet? No.
No, you just gave FTR, and you'll give Christian as your 8th because I'll let you have Christian. Christian was definitely on my short list. Okay. My next 2 picks, and then we'll both make one final pick to end this with 9 because that's what every show does is end things with 9. But you gave FTR and Christian, and my next 2 picks, they're going to be Chris Jericho. Sadly, the first ever AEW champion. Again, the guy's been there since the beginning. He legally has to be in every pay-per-view, and some of them have been great. Some moments for Chris Jericho have been great. The Jericho Appreciation Society, not so much. But you have to say, those first 2 factions that Jericho had, he did make some new wrestlers in those factions. And he did make people matter with those factions just by being in the ring with them. Could he have put more people over along the way? Sure. But when you think of AEW, you got to think of their first ever champion, and that is Chris Jericho. He comes in at 7th. Bob's 7th pick was FTR. Bob's 8th pick was Christian. My 8th pick is Orange Cassidy, a guy that I saw for the first time in the Battle Royal against guys like Club Soda and whatever else the other people's names were. And Orange Cassidy comes in and starts doing those kicks where he doesn't move at all, and the crowd's going crazy. And I'm like, what the F is this? And he has turned into one of the coolest wrestlers in not only the promotion, but in any promotion. Orange Cassidy is a workhorse in AEW, and I never thought he would be. He deserves every spot he's in, and he deserves a vacation every now and again. Orange Cassidy's 8th for me. Chris Jericho's 7th. Bob, your last pick in what embodies AEW.
Well, have you taken Jack Perry?
I have not.
Oh, fuck. I'll take Jungle Man Jack Perry here. TNT champion. I will take him. I'm not going to take CM Punk. It doesn't make sense on this list. But Jack Perry's obvious. It makes sense. He's been there from the beginning. He's one of the pillars. I have a few names I want to just run by you after. So give me your name. What do you have?
No, Jack Perry's great. That's 3 of the 4 pillars have been drafted, and honestly, Sammy Guevara is on my list. He could have been the 4th pillar if we were going longer. I would have drafted him.
He's in Ring of Honor now, so he's disqualified.
Brian Danielson also on my short list here. Not going to be the guy I drafted. Thunder Rosa also on my short list here. Not going to be the person I drafted. Eddie Kingston is probably the next pick. If I'm not taking the person I'm about to take, Eddie Kingston's probably the next pick. I think he has embodied AEW wholeheartedly and has truly been a difference maker in that company. And of course, Tony Khan, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur are on my short list just in case I ran out of names because, they do kind of embody AEW. But the name I'm going to draft, and the last name that's on my short list here, and it's a tag team. It's Rey Fenix and Penta.
Oh, wow.
Penta El Cerro Miedo, however you say his name.
We
Uh,
don't.
when AEW opened up to bring in these two guys that you saw mostly in Lucha Underground and to see the feuds that they could have with the Young Bucks and everyone else on this roster, it definitely was a different flavor of wrestling. And I think Rey Fenix, especially, is one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. And they constantly put these guys in matches as sort of workhorses, as good hands, and never really gave them the true run, especially in singles competition, that I believe they definitely deserved in AEW. What Penta did in Lucha Underground, he never reached the same level of what he could do in AEW, and that's a failure by AEW. What Rey Fenix did in Lucha Underground, he never reached the same level of what he could do in AEW, and that's a failure by AEW. And the biggest rumor right now is that these two guys are WWE bound, NXT bound. And I wish them all the luck in the world, because in that promotion especially, I think they can be difference makers and a different version of what WWE has to offer, especially in that in out of their masked wrestlers and their luchadors and everything else. Those two guys are different breeds, man, and I
Yeah.
think they can succeed in WWE. But in AEW, they should have mattered more, and they should have been higher on this list. And it's a failure by AEW to have them no longer there. Bob, as we wrap this up, in the state of AEW, I think that encapsulates all of it. We said a bunch of great effing names here and a bunch of great memories that we've had watching this promotion together as we're building to the biggest match that they have, the biggest card pay-per-view that they have. And some of these guys have huge feuds on that card that we're looking forward to. But guys like Rey Fenix and Penta and Jay White and all these
Oh,
other names that have been left to the side
Wardlow.
don't get the shine and the build that we want them to see in AEW, and kind of get just sort of flop around. And
Takeshita.
that, I think, is the state of AEW, man.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's some of the names I had on my list who I think are just wasting away in a is Takeshita. Like they had him beat Kenny
John
Omega, and
Callis
now
was on my list too. Yeah.
like he's so good, they don't do anything with him though. It's very frustrating. Takeshita,
Yeah.
he's like an excellent wrestler, and they're not doing anything with him. I also had Kyle Fletcher as like a name of the future that I was thinking of, and Nick Wayne, the great Nick Wayne. He's what 19 now. They've had him since he was 16. Like those are the future. Those are going to be the names. Hopefully, if this podcast is still going in 6 years, those are going to be the names that are big. Nick Wayne and Kyle Fletcher.
Well,
But
you just reminded me of a failure that we've made.
what?
We've forgotten a name that should be a lot higher on this list, probably around the Swerve, John Moxley draft picks. But that's Brody Lee.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's yeah. He was
Brody
like
Lee definitely embodied the first few years of AEW while he was
his
around, man.
his rivalry with Cody Rhodes with the TNT title was great. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We missed
But
him.
that's it.
I didn't have Cody Rhodes on my list. He does
Wow.
embody AEW though. It just Cody Rhodes and CM Punk leaving was like unbelievable to me. But Cody Rhodes is the biggest thing that happened to AEW. Him jumping ship, and that was during Vince McMahon's era.
Yep.
Don't forget that. He had a conversation, sit down conversation with Vince McMahon, and decided to leave for Vince McMahon, not for Triple H. That hadn't happened yet, so it's shocking.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that's it for the AEW draft and the state of AEW. I think that was a good exercise, man. And I think, again, I hope AEW succeeds. I hope it moves forward, and I hope it only grows. But we need a little bit more, man. We need a little bit. Just focus on the stars and build them, and don't stop building them.
Yeah.
It's just we need to be. There's no reason we shouldn't be uberly excited about this all-in card and things going forward, but for some reason it's just not catching, and I don't know if it ever will. But let's move on to WWE.
Okay.
Bob, very quick, main cards of the week for WWE here. 3 topics we want to talk about. The first one has to do with Roman Reigns and the new v old bloodline. What happened with Roman, and are you excited for it?
Yeah, I'm going to do the little it's still real to me, damn it, on this one. I'm going to throw in, because this storyline has the chance to get really personal and really interesting to me. I'm not like Roman Reigns' father, Sika Anawai, passed away last month. He gave him a lei, ulafala. That's the only time I'm going to try to say that word, ulafala, or a lei. He gave him that at Hell in a Cell 2020 after he beat Jey Uso. The Wild Samoans came on the entrance ramp and gave him the lei. Now Solo Sikoa has taken it. He's tried to make himself the tribal chief during Roman Reigns' time away, And on SmackDown, Reigns beat the hell out of everyone, but Tama Tonga got the and he was like hesitant to give it back to Solo Sikoa. So he's conflicted about it. They're doing something with that lei. And I think that if they relate it to Roman Reigns' father's passing, like that could be an epic storyline to me. Like that's why I'm really interested, because it's not just the new bloodline versus the old bloodline. It's the Usos coming back to support Roman Reigns to get that lei back that his father gave him. There's a lot there, but that's just what all I had on that. Really, is just they could make this rivalry really, really interesting and really, really personal if they wanted to. I don't know if WWE will do that. I hope they do, but they could make this something really special, and it already is feeling special. It feels like it's. I made this mention on a short I did. It's like the Harlem Globetrotters, this roster right now. It's like every other entrance. It's like someone that could sell out a building by themselves. It's ridiculous what's going on in WWE right now. But this Roman Reigns returning storyline could have that backstory with his father giving him that lei and Solo Sikoa stealing it and refusing to give him it back, and just refusing to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the original tribal chief. So that's just me rambling about that storyline for 3 minutes.
No. It's not. It's not rambling, because there's a lot to say about it. But to me, is it going to reach? Even if WWE goes the personal route and dives into the things that you're sort of suggesting they should dive into, is it going to reach the greatness it can reach with Solo on the other side of the feud?
No, but if it, like, Jacob Fatu's, once he's healthy, is an electric match against Roman Reigns to me. I really want to see that.
Right,
But then
but we're not building to that.
But if The Rock comes back and supports Solo Sikoa and says, hey, he doesn't need to give that shit back to you at all, like, then that could be really something. So that's what there's something there. There's something with that. They made a point. WWE does that. They make a point. It's like a soap opera. They film. It's so ridiculous. Tama Tonga's action while holding it, like, he's just like befuddled and he's so overacting. So they made a point to show that conflict. They didn't show that for no reason, is all I'm saying. So that I think that's the direction the storyline's going, and I'm all for it. I think it could be great if The Rock comes back too. Like, there would be something really special there, in my opinion.
The second subject we want to talk about for WWE land has nothing to do with WWE. Has to do with NXT. You have been sold completely on you believe in Joe Hendry. Put it that way.
And I also believe in NXT champion Ethan Page, and I was very disappointed that AEW didn't keep him around, and he's cutting promos as the NXT champion.
Bob, time out. Bob, we could have had this draft go to 50 people. I wouldn't have selected Ethan Page. So keep going.
Yeah, because they never used him. He was in Ring of Honor. I wouldn't have selected Ethan Page either. But I mean, what embodies AEW, what embodies Tony Khan's fever dreams is, whatever. Like, that's I would not book that. If it was a real wrestling promotion, Ethan Page would still be there. I'm just kidding. But Ethan Page is the NXT champion. I'm really excited for him. You might not like him or think he's that great, but I think he's a solid wrestler with a great personality, which I wanted AEW to have more personalities, more people that could hold their own with the microphone. And NXT with Ethan Page, and was interrupted by Joe Hendry, who's just taking the world by storm all of a sudden. Is he even still in TNA? Like, he might be. There's no way WWE's letting that guy go back. They know what they have in that guy. He's not going to be, 4-time WWE champion Joe Hendry. Maybe he'll win the title once. I doubt it. But if he gets to the main roster, he can do what The Miz has been doing for 15, 20 years. He can do that for the next decade himself. So if I'm just excited for Joe Hendry, and he's going to get a shot at the NXT championship coming up. I don't know when this feud is, this rivalry is building to. Wesley's involved. I'm just saying that I got a weird question for you. In a year, do you think if NXT went on the road, if they building how they are now in a year, do you think that they could outdraw AEW?
Like talking about in-person attendance?
Yeah, not like huge shows like in London. I'm talking about weekly. Like, for Dynamite,
I would
Dynamite's like $3,000 right now.
I think they would outtry AEW solely because the WWE machine is much smarter at booking venues and promoting but if it was just on the same level of promotion, no, absolutely not. No offense to AEW to NXT. It's the farm system for a reason. A lot of these names are unknown, and if you're going on a tour bus what are the faces you're putting on that tour bus from NXT that are going to be like, oh, Ethan Page is in town, let me go get a ticket? Like, no,
Joe
they don't
Hendry.
have that.
It's just Joe Hendry, probably.
They don't have that.
Just
The third topic before we move on to the gimmicks of the week is what's happening this week in Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, it's just we have to talk about Rhea Ripley's storyline once a week. Just a magical storyline, the best storyline in years. I love the storyline in WWE. It's so on this past Monday's episode of Raw, the new Judgment Day, Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan were in the crowd during Rhea Ripley's promo. Damian Priest shows up like a cartoon character behind them, standing silently. Rhea Ripley chases Liv Morgan to the crowd. We'll play that video right here. Then, so she doesn't catch her, but we get this match announced: Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio at Bash in Berlin. That is like a perfect, like we've said, glorified house shows. These premium live events.
House show match.
That is
an
unbelievable
house show match.
I will be on the edge of my seat for 25 minutes. There's going to be so much bullshit and shenanigans in this match. Yeah. I don't know what they're going to do. I just can't wait for it. That's it. I just love this storyline. They're doing it perfectly, and we all know that eventually Liv Morgan probably going to betray Dominic, but we're months away from that. But just everything about that.
You're going to betray Dominic. Someone's going to betray Dominic. Yeah. Street trash.
Is that what their new name is? Yeah.
That's what they wanted it to be, but no, it's going back to Judgment Day. But that's it for what WWE is all about, what AEW is all about. Let's finish with a very quick gimmicks of the week. The first gimmick, the Jericho Appreciation Society Award of the Week for the faction that we give two shits about. What is the winner this week, Bob?
It's the Pure Fusion Collective.
Who are they?
The Pure Fusion Collective is Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and who the hell? Sonya Deville, excuse me. That's the worst name I've ever heard for a faction in my life. The Pure Fusion Collective sounds like a brand of like a protein powder.
Is it better or worse than the Submission Sorority?
That's at least it sounds like a wrestler. Well, actually, never mind. That sounds like something else.
That's why I had it for a week and then had to change it, Bob.
It's just they had a name floating around called the Warning Shot, which I think is fine, and I think they should just do that. The Warning Shot is fine. Pure Fusion Collective is a terrible faction name, and they get this week's Jericho Appreciation Society Award.
Speaking of jobbers, jobber of the week goes to Vincent. Is his last name really Whiny, Bob?
Yeah, it is. And he got squashed by the great Odyssey Jones. We talked about him last week. He was drafted in 2003, didn't appear for 18 months. But you know what? Vincent Whiny's a jobber, but he's also dating Cora Jade. So he's winning at life, just losing in the ring.
There you go. Promo of the week. This one's coming from AEW because I thought what Cesaro and Okada did together at AEW Dynamite to build their match next week at Dynamite was spectacular. And Cesaro in particular, after Okada walks away, Okada calls him a bitch, as he normally does. And Cesaro goes straight into the camera and is impassioned as I've seen him in AEW and finishes with an A+ line of Okada, you'll have 99 problems and this bitch is number one. Ooh. I'm in, Cesaro. Great job, my guy.
Absolutely.
I want to save Social Superstar. That's my favorite moment of the week. Return of the week. It's Hook with an eye patch. Bob, how many more draft picks would we have had to do before you drafted Hook on your AEW draft?
2 years ago, he would have been in my top 10 because I thought he was going to be something. Now, I just wouldn't have even drafted. That promo was, he can't cut a promo. I'm sorry to Hogan. He just can't cut a promo. I don't know why they keep having him cut a promo.
No, it's terrible.
Tony Khan's obsession with eye patches needs to be studied. John Moxley's been in one. This has been like 14 eye patches. We're going to do a show. We're going to do next draft is top 10 eye patches in AEW. That's our next draft.
Speaking of injuries, get well soon goes to Dakota Kai. This actually stinks because Dakota Kai's awesome, and it's another knee injury for her.
Yeah, torn meniscus, 6 to 8 to 10 weeks. We'll see. That's just a bummer. She was just had a torn ACL for a year. She was out, so this sucks for her. Get well soon.
Maybe her and JJ McCarthy can rehab together and fall in love. Have a magical little situation there. Lastly, the social media superstar of the week. My man Dominic Mysterio went on the Logan Paul podcast, and I don't know if we're allowed to play a clip here, but I will preface the clip saying if you don't know about Logan Paul's visit to a forest in Japan, I don't
Yeah.
know where you've been the past few years, but Dominic Mysterio, I mean, if I could high five someone, I would high five him immediately because I thought the way he handled this line of questioning was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was great. And him suggesting that Logan Paul wear that stupid hat. If we don't have that, we'll just put the image of him and then that stupid hat. And I'm not even going to just explain what he did in Japan at that moment. It's one of the most classless scumbag moves. But Dominic Mysterio just laughing at Logan Paul in his
Are you even
face.
allowed in Japan?
Yeah. Do you have to get clearance? And then his buddy was like, I think he has to talk to the emperor or some stupid whoever his co-host was. So that was kind of funny. But
Great
yeah,
heel heat.
just
Great heel
yeah.
heat.
I will say
Man.
Logan Paul did say that if he would be a real heel if he went to Japan with WWE. So at least he gets it on that level, but he's still a scumbag.
That's it for the gimmicks of the week. A plus Dom. Let's end with the headlines of the week. Bob, this is when we talk about what the wrestling world will be discussing at this point next week. You do WWE, I do AEW. What is your headline of the week for WWE?
Well, just quickly, we just said like Punk and McIntyre also brawled during Raw. Like if they had Punk and McIntyre and Roman Reigns somehow to the card at Bash in Berlin, I'll be more excited for that pay-per-view than I was for SummerSlam. That's my headline. The Bash in Berlin has the potential to be better than SummerSlam, which had 6 title matches, just in terms of excitement, because I'm more invested in what just the feuds that they have for the show right now.
For AEW, my headline is, and this kind of ended this week's Dynamite, and I think it will continue next week. I think Swerve and Bryan Danielson continue to blur the lines of reality and story here in this wrestling feud, and I'm very excited to see what happens. So my headline is these two guys are setting up what could be an all-time main event at All In, and they continue to do that this time next week. But that is it for the Ridiculously Lame Wrestling Show, a very special episode, a crossover episode, some would say, but that is all I got. Bob, unless you want to say something, I believe it's time we kick it over to this week in Ryback.